Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your new team member training. This is the first of a lot of training sessions that you're going to go through as a new team member in the store. This one is how to read schematics. It's a step-by-step guide for ensuring location accuracy. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kim Purcell. I have over 20 years of retail experience in both the mall setting and in big box retail. So again, I'd like to welcome you all. I know a lot of times starting a new job is going to be scary and overwhelming, but hopefully this is very exciting for you as well. We're very excited to have you as a part of the team. And we're very excited to be able to let you be successful by going through all of these training sessions. What you're going to learn today in this training session are going to be how to pretty much stock the store. First of all, you're going to learn to easily identify where specific items in the store go according to their schematic numbers. To know by looking at the schematic label how many facings each item should have on a shelf. To understand why more complex schematic codes like STR tie exist and how they are used. To know in what instances schematic rules cease to be used in order to maintain store brand visual expectations. And to know why schematics are used for each of the following groups. So store employees, guests, and weights and measures expectations. But before we get into all of that information, I'd like to do kind of an icebreaker into the store. Our store, as you learned in orientation, has a discussion board online and also a lot of other online tools that can help you learn. But the discussion board is what we're going to be focused on here. And we actually do an orientation one. So I want you to think about what you want your future Facebook profile to say about who you are. So pretend it's 10 years in the future. What will you want to have accomplished in your Facebook profile when it's up? Where will you have worked? Are you going to try and work your way up here? And will you still be working here in 10 years? Maybe you'll be somewhere else. Maybe you'll have lived or traveled to different places. Or there's other details or life events that you would want your Facebook friends to know about you. So think about your future, and at the bottom of the screen, when you're ready, press pause on this video, and then go to fill out your little icebreaker answer. This particular link will take you to this store-specific discussion forum on icebreakers, and take time to kind of read a few other ones on there. That's all going to be people from this store. It'll kind of give you an idea of how the other people in the store are and hopefully get you a little icebreaker into everybody out there. So when you're done, press unpause and we'll get back to the lesson. So this section is all about schematics. Schematics is a term you will consistently hear in your new position in our store. We define schematics as the numerical representation of a planogram. Each numeric sequence will represent a different position on the planogram for a specific item to be placed. One of the biggest goals in your store workings is going to be stocking everything accurately for other people in the store. It'll help us follow weights and measures regulations, help other employees find the products in the right location, and help our guests find the products in the right location. We want to make sure our store looks branded, and this will make sure that we're upholding company expectations. Every single item in the store has a schematic number that corresponds with the specific location it belongs to in the store. This occurs because every single item in our store has a planogram, and a planogram is pretty much a map that will tell you exactly where every single item in the store needs to go. For instance, all deodorants are going to be in one main planogram, but the specific item, secret clinical strength, is going to be in one specific space in that planogram. Each aisle in the store could have 1 to 5 planograms in it, but schematics are specific to individual items. And that'll mean that it's tied to a specific location on a planogram. And you'll see in our little example planogram here, there are just a ton of different deodorants on this planogram. Your schematic number for each item is going to tell you where this little purple one goes, this yellow one. They all have their own very specific space that they go to. Here, take just a few minutes, pause this video, and check out these links. It'll tell you more about what a planogram is and some of the reasons that we use planograms in the store. When you're ready, unpause the video and come back to the lesson. So schematics are always going to be on these yellow labels on the shelves. And you'll also find the schematics on the particular item when you scan it on the price scanner or with the tools that we will give you when you are working to individually scan items on your own. It's a mobile device. There's a lot of information on this label, but the schematic number is going to be right where this 132 is. That's our schematic number right there. And then right over here, this number 2, that's how many facings this item has. If you take a moment to pause this video, please go to this link. It'll take you to a Prezi that'll tell you what the most important parts of a label are, what they tell you, and there's a short video at the end to see why stores have specific places that each item goes. When you're ready, unpause this video and come back to the lesson. So facings are very important with schematics because it's going to help us ensure that every item is stocked correctly. So if you notice in these two pictures, it's the same item. This item is stocked in the correct schematic location. It's supposed to be with this label right here. But you'll notice there's a giant empty space to the side. Well, that's because whoever stocked just stocked straight back and didn't pay attention to how many facings this item is supposed to have. The second picture, we've got it stocked correctly. This item is supposed to have 2 facings of the product. And so it's in the right location with the right amount of facings. This keeps everything looking nice and branded for our store. So using a schematic, next, no matter what the item is, stocking for location accuracy uses the schematic. This is because a team member who won't have to guess or remember where an item goes, they just have to follow up with the schematic numbers on everything. So the first part of our schematic is going to talk about where the aisle is. And as you went in your orientation, your orientation tour guide showed you that all of our aisles go in both a letter and numerical order. So all the main aisles like this, these are all going to be the same letter aisle for the department. And then there's going to be different numbers on each aisle. Up on these tops, it'll say both the letter and the number is going to go in numerical order. So throughout this orientation, you're going to have a specific example. So in that one, it's going to be F18-1241. The beginning part, F18 in this schematic number, references those aisles that you're going to. So instead of guessing where an item goes, just at the very beginning of that schematic number, you know exactly what aisle everything is going to go to. Next, we're going to talk about planogram. That's going to be this little number right here. We're going to just briefly skip over that one. You'll get it into more detail in the second training session. But there could be multiple planograms in any aisle. So whatever number is in that parentheses, that's what number planogram is going to be in that aisle that you're looking at. It'll send you a specific location. For most of the examples in this particular training, we're just going to go with everything is in planogram number 1 to begin with. The next part that we're going to go over is the section number. So we've already got our aisle number right here, F18, our planogram number, number 1. Then our section number in this particular schematic is number 2. That's going to be our section number. As you went through our store tour, our orientation guide also showed you that there are end caps and side caps in the store. End caps are the front and back displays on each aisle, and side caps are on the side, little extra displays in the middle of the aisle, but kind of on the side of the aisle. Those are always going to have section number 1. That's because end caps and side caps inherently only have one section in them. So where do we know where section 2 is in that sample schematic? So we're going to look at the whole aisle in this next slide that we're going to come to. The majority of aisles have 5 sections total, so all of our examples are going to be based off of that information. Every section is going to be 4 feet wide, but mostly pay attention to each section is the length of a shelf. That's going to help you out a lot. You don't have to bring out your measuring tape. However long the shelf is, that the shelf is in your aisle, that's how long the section is. So the section is in our main aisle, so most of the aisles are going to have 5 sections. The section that is next to the main aisle, so the main walkway, is always going to be section 1. That means not every single aisle is numbered in the order like you'd read a book, left to right. It's all based off of what section is closest to the main aisle. So in standard planograms, the main aisle is always going to be to the left, and you're going to read the entire schematic standard, just like you were reading a book. In a reverse planogram, the main aisle is going to be over on the other side, and the planogram is going to move from this main aisle on this side back towards the left as you're reading your numbers. But just remember, no matter what aisle you're in, pay attention to where the main aisle is. Where the main aisle is, that first aisle section is always going to be section number 1. So like we said, front and back end caps are always standard. They always have 1 section, and they're going to be on the ends, but front end caps and back end caps are always going to be standard. You never have to guess if they're going left to right or right to left. It's always reading a book. So in our example schematic, F18, 1, 4, 2, 1, the schematic is in, we've already learned aisle F18, planogram 1, section 2. So why are there multiple planograms in one aisle? We talked about that little parentheses. Why would there be more than 1 planogram in an aisle? Well, every aisle is based on space, the needs of the store, whatever needs. So some aisles are going to have lots of little planograms, and some are going to have big ones. For instance, a furniture aisle might only have 1 planogram, whereas the deodorant aisle probably has men's deodorant, women's deodorant, other things like that. Next, we're going to go to shelf numbers. So now that you know which is your aisle and which section you're going to, every item has a shelf number on it. Because every section can have different amounts of shelves on it, your bottom shelf is always going to be shelf number 1. And from there, the shelves count physically up as you move up the schematic. So in our sample schematic, F18, so aisle F18, 1, planogram 1, 2, section 2. This number 4 is that next item we're going to, and that's what shelf this specific item is on. So for shelf 4, counting from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, our item's going to be right here. Each shelf can have any number of items on it. Some items are long and you can only fit 1 on an entire shelf. The furniture department's a really good example of this. Other items could have just 15 or 20 or more items on it. A vitamin aisle is a really good example of this because it's got a lot of different items on it. So now we're going to go to the specific item number. In our sample schematic, the last number is a specific item location number. So F18, 1, section 2, shelf 4, 1. This last number 1 is the specific item location number. And just like reading the section numbers, the specific item location number will be number 1 at the closest part of the section or shelf to the main aisle. Again, talking about stand in reverse, that number 1 could be on the left side or the right side. But if it's a standard planogram, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Whereas in a reverse planogram, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Here's a brief slide to kind of show you in a reverse planogram the numbers. If you need to pause, go ahead, take a look at it. And here is a standard planogram if you need to take a look at everything to see what's going on with that one. Okay. So next, what we're going to talk about is when schematics do not follow those rules that we were just talking about. So actually, we're going to go into store tie. Sometimes you're going to scan an item and it's just going to say store tie on it. It's STR tie and really means store tie. These items do not belong on a regular planogram, but we can tie them to a specific end cap in the store. Usually this end cap is a back end cap with various different regular price things on it. We make a manual label and we stock it to there. For some reason it's not on a planogram. It could have come to the store by accident. It could be something that used to be on planogram but got taken off a planogram, but we use STR tie for that. It's going to send you again to a back end cap. Normally we can't create a schematic number for these items, again, because they don't belong to a planogram. But what we can do is tie them to an end cap location. So let's say, F18 section 0 for the end cap, and it'll let us know that we have to go to that particular end cap to stock it. Other than that, we also have schematics are not going to apply when replacing clearance items or when doing pre-transition merchandising. Sometimes a clearance item is going to sell out before a revision, which is an update to a planogram. But the clearance items will sell out, and that's just going to leave a lot of empty space on the shelf. So what we're going to do in these instances, I'll get you an example here. We're going to increase the facings on these items. So we've sold out of this clearance item. It just leaves a big empty hole, looks kind of weird. So we're going to flip this clearance label around to make it white, and then increase the facings on this item here, bring some more over, and make the shelf look fuller. Same like here, we're going to flip these labels around, bring the item that was over here to the whole shelf. Just makes the area look a lot better. We're not going to get restocked on clearance items, so if it's out, it's out. It's not going to come back. But increasing the facings makes the department look fuller and more impactful for somebody who's shopping. And there's also something called pre-transition merchandising. It's a little bit more complex, such as when it gets closer to Christmas, the department gets smaller and smaller as stock sells out. People are going to buy Christmas, but the store already has all of the stuff. Or maybe it's after the holiday and the items are clearance. Well, PTM means we're going to condense all of the holiday items to one side and then start setting other planograms to the other side, so we don't have a bunch of empty space around the store. There's going to be a future training over PTM, but in general, you'll see these little MPG red labels that mean that the department is PTM. If you don't see that label, you need to make sure that you are stocking correctly for everything. And, poor location accuracy impacts a lot of different people. It can mean that other employees can't find the item they're looking for. A guest can't find the item they're looking for. Maybe we've put it in the wrong place and the guest thinks it's a different price than what it really is at the front. And that's going to impact weights and measures. Weights and measures is a regulatory business that comes and ensures that businesses are making sure every price is accurate, that we're not overcharging anybody. And they'll come in and ensure that everybody's got their item stocked correctly with the right prices. So when you have a chance, pause this video and then come back, but go to these two links. They go to unofficial Target break room discussion forums, and they'll explain some of the frustrations team members have when items are not stocked correctly. When you're done, unpause this video. We'll go on to the next section. Welcome back. Now, same thing, pause this slide when you have a chance, and then go on to the links, but these links are going to tell you about weights and measures. Weights and measures violations can mean that the store is fined for excessive violations, and it protects you as a shopper, ensuring that prices and sizes on labels match the products in those locations. So it is very important, again, for many reasons, to ensure that the store is stocked correctly. Go ahead and check out these links and then come back to the video. Okay, folks, that's the end of the lesson. Hopefully you have learned how to easily identify where specific items go in the store according to the schematic, to know by looking at the schematic label how many facings each item should have on a shelf, to understand why more complex schematic codes like STR tie exist and how they are used, to know in what instances schematic rules cease to be used in order to maintain store brand visual expectations. Those are those clearance and PTM things that we just went over. And then know why schematics are used for each of the following groups: store employees, guests, weights, and measures regulations. Again, thank you so much for coming to this training. Really enjoyed having you guys. Again, if you have any questions, you're going to be going on to several other levels of training after this one. Please be sure to ask questions when you're actually doing your on-the-job with your trainer training. They'll help clarify anything that you need. Everybody's here to make sure that you succeed, because your success means the store succeeds. Everybody's happy. Again, we're very, very happy that you've come to join the team, and have a good afternoon.